One of the most scariest mods I've ever played isn't even a horror mod. No monsters, ghosts, jump scares, nothing. This is Half-Life 2 Alone, a mod that removes everyone. No Combine, no citizens, no aliens, nothing. Just the bleak solitude of empty city streets and the vast open wastelands. I've seen this mod making rounds on YouTube, but playing it on my own was when I realized how haunting this experience really is. Where once there was hustle and bustle of an oppressive regime working like a machine, now remains nothing but silence. Old friends and enemies that once aided you and wanted to capture you are there no more. I know the topic has been played to death at this point, but being alone in these maps, especially with the new darker lighting and skybox, makes a world of difference. For once, the noise and the rush just stop, and what's left is even worse: deafening silence. My personal headcanon for this mod is that this is something Gordon is experiencing after episode 2 finishes. While he's recovering from his injuries, he's reminiscing about his journey to that point, but of course, something is messing with his head, purposely making his memories look depressive and miserable and lonely. Well, that's just my theory. This odd feeling of experiencing these maps in this way is almost unexplainable. It's like a routine you're used to with the same layout, the same process, but this time, it's just empty. I feel like this mod makes for a somewhat accurate analogy of what it feels like when a person suffers from depression and anxiety. The darkened clouds, the nighttime, lack of any human contact gives off the picture of someone who is at their lowest. Speaking of time, I also really liked the lack of any time progression. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but the sky staying the same and the time of day staying the same is a really nice touch. It gives the whole game that cursed feeling that a lot of us enjoy. It gives this message of a person being stuck in the same place, not being able to move on, forever stuck in the dark, a constant cycle of being in grief and not being able to break out of it. Now, I almost expected the mod author to add in spooks and scary stuff, but I really appreciate the fact that they didn't. But my anxiety got the better of me. Around every corner, at every obscure nook and cranny, I almost expected someone or something looking back at me. I had to keep reminding myself that this is not supposed to be a horror mod, but the feeling just wouldn't wash off. I kept getting paranoid about something being there, something that can see me, but I can't see it. Dramatical monologues aside, I do want to mention that this mod is a work in progress right now, but you can play it from the start all the way to the coastal maps with the scout car. And honestly, I'm looking forward to how the interiors of the Citadel will look like in this setup. A gigantic structure like that, devoid of any life and activity, will definitely send shivers down many spines. Hell, I hope the mod author also works on the same idea but for episode 1 and 2. That would be very fun to experience as well. Apart from that, I do think the mod needs just a tiny bit of refinement in the lighting aspect. Some parts do look nice while they're dark, but some look off. Whole patches of area completely dark kind of ruined the mood, but that was a rare occurrence. The feeling of loneliness further cemented when I loaded into the root canal chapter and got on the airboat. Again, going through these maps in this setting was an interesting experience. I never knew how lonely it could get in these canals. The least amount of difference that I felt was in the Ravenholm chapter because the lighting mostly looks the same as it does in the retail game. It didn't make much difference to me either, although I did miss Grigori being around. Lastly, the coastal maps at nighttime also looked very atmospheric. That feeling of Gordon being the last man on the planet is further extended here. On the downside, I think the fog should be added back into the game, as the constant clipping of objects in the distance kind of ruins the immersion a little bit. The last suggestion I want to make is about the skybox. While I truly appreciate the fact that the mod uses a beta skybox, I would really like it if the mod author somehow upscaled this texture, or use something that looks like this one. But yeah, it was still quite moody to drive through these parts. Just the sound of the scout car and the water added on to the experience. But is it really worth living like this? Thanks for watching, and a big thanks to these benefactors for supporting the channel. Unusual, Taylor, A Normal Street Lamp, Mr. Spaban, G-Out, Nobody Important, T.S. Stromer, Scary Stalker, It's Juro, Scooms, Owie, Imperial Embers, T-Boy301, Jack5282, Lucky You, Quiltman, 501st Clone Boy, TTG, Robocop, Noel, Tedosaur, Lambdre, Roadkill, Walter, Fisher Grice, Hawk Assault, Jelen, TRR Droid, and Bipolit. Thanks again, and see you in the next one.